Hello, this is Chukwudi Iwuji, and you're listening to Monday Morning Critic.
Amazing. So I have to say, and there's a lot I want to get into, and I want to keep it within the 30-minute span for your time, for your sanity. Are you exhausted from Othello last night? Is that exhausting?
That was no, exhausting isn't the word. It was. We did have a really good dinner in between because there were two events yesterday. We did it at Columbia University, then had a really nice plush dinner,
Right.
courtesy of the Columbia Slush Fund, and then did that. So, if anything, I was very relaxed by the end of it. But it was a. I didn't know it would go as in depth as it went. I didn't know it would actually open the door to be as honest as we were allowed to be, and
Right.
it does realize that, wow, whether you like it or not, we're in a time when conversations really have to be had about everything. But at the same time, it was very interesting that with John, myself, and Andre, you had three black men who'd all played the same role and three different experiences with it. And I thought that was very fascinating. So it was a very surprising evening to me. And I guess emotionally, it triggered a lot of stuff that I didn't think would happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know you're a pro, but are jitters are even a thing for you anymore? Or is that
Oh,
even
no, not for something like that. No, not for
okay?
something,
Okay.
something like that. I love conversation with intelligent people, and I love conversation with generous people. And that audience was very generous and also very intelligent. And the guys I was with, these are people I respect as actors. And as James Shapiro said, it's never been done. Three Othellos in America, put together that have done a clip just together talking about it. So it was great to be part of that history. But no, the nerves sort of come when you have to, first, my nerves come. The only time I'm genuinely nervous is first preview of a show, because that's
Gotcha.
the first time the energy has completely shifted. So
Hmm.
that's the first time. Because by opening, I'm perfectly fine because you've had a few shows to go. But that first preview, when you just don't know how the energy of the molecules in the room will be different, that's really the only time I get jitters. And sometimes on set, depending on the scene we're shooting, if it's a because the thing about camera work is it's on and it's off, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
like action, and it's an emotional scene.
Right.
And are you gonna get there genuinely or not? Because if I'm not gonna fake getting there, so I'm either gonna get there in the way I traditionally think I should get there. I'm gonna get there some other way. What makes me nervous is, am I gonna find what that other way is if the normal route to it isn't accessible? Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And this is, we talked about this for those listening, your second time on the podcast. Very grateful for that. So I feel like when Guardian drops, will you be the first time three-timer guest? Like, I feel like it's, how Tom Hanks gets that jacket for hosting SNL five times. He
Yeah.
gets to, I feel like I got to give you a jacket at this point, right? uh, as much as we talk about your talent and how wonderful you are, I feel like your wife deserves a lot of this credit, right? Because she's your camera person, she rehearses lines with you, she's your dance moves instructor, right? so
Yeah.
so so this is an amazing woman who really is all in on who you are.
She is extraordinary, and honestly, I mean, Derek, I don't know if you're married or not, but there is something about understanding that it's not just on you, you know,
Yes.
that whether you're thinking about a family or whether you're thinking about your work or whether you're thinking about nerves, that there's a partner, there's someone that there's a line I wrote in a screenplay about Ira Aldridge that we're hoping is soon to see the light of day. And in the line, he says, I strive every day to deserve you to the woman he loves, his wife. And that's how I feel about her, in many ways, because those people just instantly, they can drive you crazy and you have your ups and downs. But
Right. Right.
ultimately, they make you better, right, in their
Absolutely.
existence. So yes, she deserves a lot of credit, and I she's a litmus test for me. I genuinely look to her, how was that when I'm doing stuff, and I trust her instincts on that 100%.
Yeah, and my wife and my daughter are at a level that I'll never get to as far as kindness and human being. Like I,
Exactly. They're
yeah,
also better at that than I
yes,
am. Also.
yes, yes. I'll never get a tan because I'll always be in her shadow. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
she's just
oh
such a
yeah.
wonderful person. So the other two things I wanted to run by you is I didn't realize how really into working out you are. I mean, you've always been a fit guy, but like lately, just looking at Instagram, like you really take it seriously. You're the physical part of it.
Derek, if there was a pill, I would take the pill instead. I really, I would honestly, trust me, mate. I'm not one of those addicted to the whatever the endorphins or whatever they release. I'm not I'm not. It's a means to an end. It's a combination of vanity, but also in a project like Guardians where my costume, what I'm wearing, doesn't allow me even space to to breathe if
Right.
there's a necessity for that. But also, it was also a deliberate thing that the kind of working out I'm doing right now, I really wanted to focus it on. I have no interest in bulking up. In fact, one of the early conversations I had with James was, do I need to? And he was like, absolutely not. In fact, lines are more interesting than bulges on the camera.
Right.
But one of the things I wanted to work with this character was as guys, we have this thing where we round forward a bit, and I know I had that, because we sort of work these muscles and stuff, was
Right.
really opening up the back. And I wanted optimum. I was like, given my frame and my size and all that, what could my optimum look be when nothing is overdone or underdone? And that's sort of the training I've been doing, because it fits with this guys. And also I'm thinking about lifestyle. What can I sustain? I'm not doing stuff now that I'm going to just stop after I'm done with Guardians. I'm
Right.
doing stuff now that is sustainable, that I can live the life I want, coffee shops and novels, and
Right.
still do this and still look. It's weird that the necessity for this role also became a necessity in the ship for what I'm doing as Chuck going forward,
Right. Right.
So
Right.
Pilates is a big part. I'm doing, like you've seen, like the reformer, because
Yep.
that's just the best thing you can gift yourself in general, that sort of building the whole core and stuff. So yeah, but honestly, mate, if someone said, here's a pill for, Pilates, and here's a pill for, your training with your trainer,
Yeah.
take one once a day and you're good to go, I'd do that.
Right. So let me ask you, how has your life changed since Peacekeeper? And let me just say, we talked about your how authentic you are, how genuine you are early on, and I feel like also you would act if you were acting in front of 5 people, right? So I think there's some people that get into acting perhaps where they have lofty goals of being. I just think you love being an actor. I was talking to my wife last night. I'm like, he just loves being an actor. Like it Peacekeeper. If Peacekeeper never happened,
Peacemaker. You keep saying Peacekeeper. Peacemaker.
I keep saying Peacekeeper. Peacemaker. It's right on the screen too. If if Peacemaker, never happened, you would still be this guy that just loves entertaining people. You would still be this guy that just adores it, right?
Yeah, I think you're right, and thank you for noticing that. Yeah, I didn't set out with lofty. Even the way my trajectory is that if there was a choice when I left drama school of, do I move to LA and become a star, try to become a star, or do I keep training as an actor? And I
Right.
I chose to keep. I said, I'm going back to London because I want to join the Royal Shakespeare Company and do my apprenticeship. And I want to join and work under these great actors and become better. And when I got there, luckily, I was very blessed to get there. Like, it was my first job was with the RSC when I moved back to London. I would be the guy on the side of the stage watching Sam West play Hamlet, because I was playing a tiny role in him. So I'd watch him. I was the guy watching Greg Hicks, who became a mentor and friend of mine, do Brutus and whatever. Because I was the one saying yes to all the classes, voice classes with the late, great Cicely Berry and stuff like that, or John Barton, the late, great John Barton, with text work. I wanted, yes, if there was something lofty, is I wanted, if I was going to do this, is the same reason I gave up sport. I loved sport, but
Right.
I knew I was never going to make the Olympics, and I knew I was never going to make the national soccer team, or So I was like, why keep doing it through college? It's just putting myself through nothing. Acting, I was like, why can't I work with the best of the best and be there? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
And it wasn't out of wanting to win an Oscar or an award show. In fact, when we're talking about Marvel, never once did I say, "Oh my God!" I see a lot of people saying, "How do I get into a Marvel movie? My goal is to get it." I don't understand
Right. Right.
in that way, Because is there a role in a Marvel movie that you've always loved as a kid you want to play, or is it just you want to get into a Marvel movie? And
Right,
I
right.
don't understand that mentality, and it takes away the joy of acting. I love character. I love building stuff. I love simplifying or complicating depending on what I feel the role needs. I love watching great actors. I watch YouTube interviews about actors all the time. I just love watching them talk about it. And I can't, it's hard, sometimes it's hard to believe that it's, I'm doing it. You
Right.
know, I turned up to the set of Guardians. I thought, I saw the first of these movies in Times Square with my friend Brandon. And we were just randomly went and thought, wow, how am I here? And it's a joy of acting. It's a joy of, I love it when they say, let's do another take. I
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
get sad in plays when rehearsal ends and it's only performances, when we can't go in and keep working on it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I get sad when the director leaves. So, yes, thank you for observing that, because I think what drives me is a love for acting. Even Shakespeare, where I say to my wife, okay, no more Shakespeare plays, no more Shakespeare plays. And then you read a passage from, and I do, oh no, I still need to come back and do it, because those are the greatest roles
Right.
ever written, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
yes, that's what sustained me through tough times also, because I mean, I know when you read back, it seems like it's been this constant trajectory, but you know, it's a bit like an album. You look at pictures in an album, people only put the happy pictures in an album, but they don't discuss what happened in between those pictures, the downsides, and that's
That's a
what sustained you, you know.
That's a good point. And speaking of great actors and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I know you've seen this before, but I'm just curious to get your reaction to it. I'm just going to throw this on the screen real quick. You've seen this before. What's your take on the fact that James Gunn basically complimented you in the best way
Mm.
possible? Talking about, basically a role that everyone wanted, but he looks at you and he sees this immense. To me, there's no bigger compliment. No award,
No,
no. I mean, when this man says that, I mean, it's game, set, match.
it, it, I mean, I saw that because I'm not on Twitter, so it was sent to me. I have a wonderful millennial, Caroline, who just manages my Instagram and stuff like that. So she saw this and sent it to me and told me about it. And my jaw dropped to the ground because I just didn't know that's how he felt about me. And then it was deep gratitude. I mean, I practice gratitude meditation every day. Where you practice everything from the coffee you're about to have to bigger things like that, and
Right.
the family you have and stuff. And I just went, this is another thing to be grateful for. And also another thing is, I'm kind of glad I don't know why James feels that way about me, and it's not my responsibility to find out why. If I start thinking, oh, what does he like about me? It goes out the window. I can only guess that whatever it is I'm doing is working for him, and I think it's something tied to what you're saying. I love acting. I
Yeah.
love finding character. I love um, surprising myself, and I'm just so glad, because art is so subjective. It works for James. It could not have worked for another director,
Right.
and I'm just so glad that one of the people it works for is someone as influential and as subversive and talented and driven as he is, because when it's like being invited into a private club when someone like him, who can have anyone he wants, says no, you're the person.
Mm.
And
Yeah, that's
he's
great.
definitely made it into my memoirs.
Yeah, and he does go on to say, he goes, "There's no way I'm letting this guy walk out without offering." I mean, he does go, but it's a very sweet thing. Let me ask you this: how is when you read a script, how different is it than reading for pleasure? When you're reading a script, how is that different than when you're reading something for just enjoyment? Right?
Yeah. Enjoyment is complete escapism, and I read a lot of fiction. Actually, I don't read nearly enough nonfiction. I try to mix it up a bit, but usually it's escapist. I imagine the people and the worlds and stuff, and I get lost in it. The script, I'm completely analyzing. I'm completely analyzing how I would say that. I'm completely analyzing how I would walk into the room. I'm seeing my staging of it.
Right.
Even if it's not what we end up doing, it's always great to walk in onto set with ideas. Directors appreciate that so much. Even if they steer you differently or they stick to it or you show them something, they just love coming with something.
Right.
So when I'm reading a script, it's a very slow process of genuinely picturing, staging, visualizing it as I read it, and then literally, because I came up through text-driven stuff, dialogue. I'm looking for the rhythms in the way I speak and how the person speaks. That's my homework. It's very technical, very quote unquote unnatural, as it
Right.
were. I only do it that way so that I can forget about it when I get on set, knowing that all of that is in here somewhere. And then I sort of come in with the confidence that the work has been done, and then what do you have to offer? Because there's that other X factor, right?
Right.
Which is the other people in the scene, the people I don't read the script with, the people I don't walk around my home practicing with, which is that other actor, those
Right.
other actors, and what they bring when they say a line to me. What Chris or John Cena or whatever, or Danielle, suddenly hearing them say it and their intonation. But what's happened is that I have a strong sense of who this person is, so that if they give me something that in a different way than how I imagined it at home, this person knows how to handle it. Then it's immediate. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect
So I'm
sense.
not worried about, have I done enough work to walk in as Clemson Mern? I've done the work to walk in as Clemson Mern. Now, what are you guys going to do? In that
Right.
sense. And that's what's exciting about it, is because I'm relaxed enough to know I'm not going to fall flat on my face. Now it's exciting to see what these other X factors bring into the room,
Right. It's
Yeah.
speaking of Clemson Mern, who you could find in Peacemaker. I got that right once. I've had this debate. It's such a nerd debate with my friends. I've said this. I think he's the biggest hero of Peacemaker. I think because he's the most selfless, right? While the other people have
Mm.
flaws, and it's just what he goes through. Being being head of the apple dumpling gang.
Dumpling gang.
Yeah. But I love the way he's just, and it's a multitude of characters which I love, and obviously you can handle that more than most. But like, I don't know, I just feel he's the most selfless person in that show, and it's a show filled with wonderful actors and wonderful characters. But that's how your performance struck me.
Oh, thank you so much. I remember early conversations with James Gunn and Peter Safran, the producer, and they really said this guy is special. His arc is, and then I read it. They sent all the scripts, so I knew what was going to happen before we started filming. I was like, okay, I get it. Sometimes as Clemson, I wanted to join in more with the fun, and I wanted to, go with the crazy, but he has to be that, and it's a complete selflessness. When you think about it, it's him versus the rest of his race. He
Yes.
chooses this. He was the sole dissenter against the rest. So and I love the fact that this taciturn, sort of hard-edged driving force actually is the most altruistic and giving, and no one knew it till the end.
Yeah, and keeping it hidden from everyone else, right? Like going against
Yes.
your entire race, and then keeping it hidden from everybody else, which is the most selfless thing you can do. And I
Yes,
look,
exactly. Not celebrating I'm a hero, but actually you guys are the heroes. We need you guys and stuff, when in many ways it's him making the ultimate sacrifice right from the start.
yeah, and I think one of the reasons why this show works is the way James can weave from seriousness to being funny to the supernatural. He
Mm.
has a knack for it, Chuck, like nobody I've ever seen. The way he just does it, it's just so graceful. It works so perfectly, and that's why people are all in on Peacemaker, because
Yeah.
they see them like it's the real character struggle of family. It's the real character struggle of these people. You can relate to these people. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
somebody that's in the Aryan race, but like you have that relative that like, oh man, like I have,
Oh, please don't say anything, Uncle. Whatever. Don't speak. Don't start speaking. Yeah.
you
He's
know,
gonna start. He's gonna do it.
everyone has that, at that family gathering, that one relative, so I think people relate. Is that a good way of putting it?
Absolutely. I think James is a humanist. It's weird because there's this snobbery against the genre, in which there is an idea of what you see is what you get. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to film noir or some black and white European movie where you're looking for those things even if they're not there,
Right, right,
And
right.
what James does is understand that just because it's this genre doesn't mean there's only one way of telling it. You saw it with Guardians of the Galaxy. He
Yep.
just completely turned the nature of superheroes on their head. You saw it even with his non-super, like when you think things that he wrote, like Slither and all that, turning the horror genre in his head. And I think it's because his main priority, at least my experience with him, is character, character, character. Is people. Apparently, when he writes, he's speaking the words and living the emotions as he's writing it and crying and shouting and what, because he's building people. So that's his superpower. I
Yeah.
think, is that James has come into this very broad genre, but decided to make it about character.
Yeah.
And if you read comics, actually, a lot of those comics, they were about character, despite their great settings. I was watching this person take on responsibility or watching, it was very, and I think in many ways, people talk about him turning the superhero genre on its head. I think he's the most true to the superhero genre in the way he approaches character and relationships and complexity and flaws
Right.
and heartbreak. You know, I'll never forget watching Suicide Squad and having the time of my life watching it. And then suddenly we had Ratcatcher 2 on the top of the clock tower with her father. And I'm there like weeping like a little child. Do you know what I mean? After all that, he does that to you. He shows the complexity of human beings, that it's not, we're not linear at all. And he does that brilliantly. And he writes great dialogue because he's very funny. People, again, a bit like comedy when it comes to awards and stuff. Comedy is often, criminally overlooked. And because he writes with so much comedy, people don't understand how hard and how difficult a skill it is to write good dialogue in that way. And he does it brilliantly. So he's a very holistic filmmaker. I really, and that's why I say I feel so grateful that of all the filmmakers, he's one of the ones that has decided I fit into that world, because his stuff is so rich,
Right. Even a hack like me knows you can fit into this world
Yeah.
relatively well. So I have to say, I want to end the interview talking about. I had a few questions about Guardians, but I have to say, saying goodbye in Peacemaker, and I know it's a show that's based on fiction. I get it, but like you are saying goodbye in a way to the cast, right? I mean, I know that when you guys when you produce it, it's not always sequential. I get it,
Yeah.
but even saying goodbye like that in a way is kind of, I don't know, it's a little sad, right?
It's sad. It's sad because we formed a real bond with the cast, and we have this text thread called the 11th Street Kids that we're together, and we text, and you're texting, and I'm going on. I said something the other day. I said, "Oh my God, I just realized that now seeing you guys, it's going to might be just sporadic, if chance allows. If I'm filming in town, if you're in town, if I swing by, I'm not going to take for granted I'm going to see you guys a lot like I would if." In a second season, but I don't know what's happening in second season, so I'm not saying that this is DC, anything can happen, but I do have a real sense of goodbye, and you certainly felt it watching episode 7, and I was like, wow, I filmed this, I knew what happened, but watching it again I was like, oh, goodbye, and it's weird because and in many ways for me what's harder for that is that despite wonderful projects and like Underground Railroad and When This Is, and even going back to Designated Survivor, which was just opening the doors for me and stuff. And this was very much a shift in my career doing peace. It marks a massive shift for me, and the goodbye is weird. It definitely is weird.
Yeah, Guardians is absolutely my favorite Marvel grouping. I just love how it works. I mean, we start with Star-Lord, right? Who is this? He comes from single parent. Like you talk about again his ability to relate. So obviously, I respect NDNAs, right? I'm going to throw a couple names at you. Blink twice for the one that you like most: Silver Surfer, High Evolutionary, Nova, Major Victory, or Beta Ray Bill. Anything there?
I didn't blink once.
Of course you. I'm going to talk to one of the best actors on the planet. I want to get him to blink, and he's not going to do it. What's one thing that you can tell me about Guardians that you won't get in trouble for, that you haven't told anybody else?
That I haven't told anybody
else. Haven't. Well, you know what? If it's something you told somebody else, I'm not that egotistical. You could tell me too.
I will say I certainly access more emotion than I ever imagined I would going into the project.
Very nice.
How's that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty darn. And are people
yeah.
probing you to get this? I mean, because I feel like,
Oh, constantly, constantly. Not even as subtly as you are. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I get it. And you know what? That's a good thing. I love. I've never been at the center of such a maelstrom before. In my own world, in the theater, you do very successful theater productions, and when that where everyone's talking about it and coming. Yeah, I get that. But this is uh, another level of I mean, last night, the Othello thing, I don't know if I told you this, but the Othello thing, I was going to be arrive, and this is whatever, and there's a gaggle of Peacemaker fans for autographs. And I was completely, I saw
wow,
them there, but I just assumed, in the area there's probably something going. I had no idea they were there for me. And they were there at the beginning. They didn't even see the event. They were just there, and they turned up at the end also. And so it's this shift that it's different. It's
is
different.
it,
But you know what's great? It comes back to that question you asked me about my wife. It's different, but at the same time, it's not,
yeah,
because
yeah,
we
yeah,
have that
yeah.
thing. My family have that thing. My friends have that. It's the same. So things have changed, but at the same time, they have it. And I'm so grateful that there's that whole side of it that hasn't changed at all.
And is it overwhelming, right? Because I mean, your fans are out there for you. I mean, it's not like you started acting for those listening at Peacemaker. Like you've been, we've talked. If people can listen to the first interview. We've talked about your life and career. It's pretty established, but like
Yeah.
it brings that really healthy like love for that Marvel, DC, Star Wars that people are just so ravenous for and they love it. So that's kind of a blessing, I think, for Chuck. I think, right?
I think so. I'm so glad that I sometimes sit down and think, if things had happened like I was hoping they would happen for me when I was 25, how would I have dealt with that, and would that have been a good thing for me? And hindsight is a wonderful thing. And in many ways, when I think of the 20, people are talking about the last 2 3 years now about me, but it's actually been 22 23 years. Like,
Right.
I graduated drama school in 2000 and stuff. So it's been a long journey. And I think, thank goodness, that, because I see this stuff, and you talk about the Peacemaker thing, right? Okay, so am I allowed to give spoilers here? Obviously, because it's come and gone,
Absolutely.
so we can talk
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah.
Mern dies. I'm thinking of, if I was doing that at 25, and is this chance to be part of a big franchise, and there's going to be another season, and I'm not in it. Oh my God, I'm not going to be in it now. I think of how I think about that, as opposed to now, where I think of the journey that has brought me to it, and
Mm,
the variety that is my trajectory to do different things. Does that, because that's what I've
yeah.
been doing for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think I meet James Gunn at 25 and he necessarily projects me in the way he's done. This is a product of all that work when I met him. So everything happens for a reason. And I'm deeply grateful, because in this maelstrom of attention, as it were, Derek, I really can smile at it in a way that you're encouraged by your meditation masters to smile at life as this
Mm,
fleeting. I can smile at it because it really is a beautiful thing, but the things that matter. And
yeah.
I have the life experience to know that that's not just an idea, it's actually what matters, and
Right.
what
Right.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, what because of the nature of acting, everything is there's things stability becomes the infrequency of it. You've been down that road many times.
Mm.
What's it like? And I don't want to turn this into a James Gunn love fest, but what's it like to have the same fantastic guy in back-to-back major projects? I mean, as an actor, it's almost unheard of, right? Because you
It's almost unheard of. Yeah.
right.
It's happened a couple of times with me, and it's a wonderful thing. But with James, it was so, oh God, what a relief to step into something like Guardians, knowing that I already have a shorthand with the director. A, I know I'm not here to prove to him I should be playing this role because he picked me. And
Right.
B, collaboratively, we have a shorthand when we talk. We James, we have a rhythm, and like he sort of lets me do it. Sometimes it aligns with what he's thinking about, and he's like, great, now push it further. Sometimes he wants something different. He knows he can just come to me and ask for something different, and I'll do it, because my first instinct is to try it and see where it goes. So what a relief to know that the guy at the top of the helm, a guy as respected and revered as he is, has literally laid the ground for you and let people know this is the guy I've chosen. But also when we talk to each other, it's like I don't have to go through that whole of I don't want to piss it. Like it's collaborative because he knows what I can bring. He knows what he can push me to. He knows that I'm ready to be pushed. So a lot of those complicated niceties or fears are out the window because as James is also a friend, so it's very it's comfortable, and I'm getting more of a he's probably ahead of me on this, but I'm getting more of a sense of what he might be looking for. But I also deeply trust his taste. So when he asks me to do something that I might go, oh, is that too much? And he says, no, it's good. I completely trust that. And that's a great place to be with a filmmaker,
Yeah. And shame on those directors because some of the best moments come from improv and collaboration. And shame on some of those directors out there that it's my way or the highway who are squashing those wonderful moments that occur in cinema. But James Gunn is not that guy. He's the opposite. He
embraces that. And James is a meticulous planner. I mean, he storyboards and draws himself everything. Yep. But at the same time, that's what makes it brilliant is you're coming into this extremely prepared environment.
Yep.
But at the same time, despite knowing that, he knows that if you do something that's really interesting, that's better or more interesting or quirkier, then he wants that. He's ready to let that go. And I think that's the best of all worlds. Someone who's completely prepared, but also understands, like we said earlier, the X factor.
Yep.
I had this in my head, but that's the person playing it. What can they do? Yeah.
You can currently find Chukwudi in the wonderful, wonderful Peacemaker. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. And I know people say that a lot. This show, one episode you're crying, 1 minute you're laughing. At the end of the day, though, you're loving every minute of it. I cannot wish you more success. I mean, you are such a wonderful human being, my friend. And
thank you, Derek. And so are you. You're a great interviewer. I really do enjoy these. So let's do more down the road, really. And love to your family also. I haven't met them, but just hearing you talk about them, send them my love,
Yeah, I'm always behind you. I got your back. You are just such a good man. Thank you so much for this time and all the time you've given me. And be well and stay safe, Chuck.
Thank you, mate. Take care of yourself.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to Darek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can also connect with Monday Morning Critic on Instagram and Facebook, MDM Critic on Twitter, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found. All episodes available, www.mmcpodcast.com.